time for a movie review, and this is another movie that I saw recently from the 60s. It's Tom Jones, and it was released in 1962. It's directed by Tony Richardson. The screenplay is written by John Osborne, based on a novel by Henry Fielding. And the cast, I'll only go through a few. George Devine plays Squire Allworthy. Rachel Kempton plays Bridget Allworthy. And Mrs. Wilkins is played by Joyce Redman. Jenny Jones plays Mrs. Waters, and the lead role, Albert Finney, plays Tom Jones. Now, some of the women. Diane Cilento plays Molly Seagrim. Susannah York is Sosie Weston. Her father, Hugh Griffiths, plays Squire Weston. And Edith Evans plays Miss Weston. There's also a minor role for David Warner as Blitheville. The film is narrated by Michael McLemore. This film received quite a number of awards. At the Academy Awards, it won the Best Picture Oscar and the Best Director and the Best Adapted Screenplay for Osborne. Also musical score, and the nominations, Finney for Best Actor, Hugh Griffiths for Supporting Actor, and 3 women for Best Supporting Actress, Diane Cilento, Edith Evans and Joyce Redman. It also received a nomination for Art Direction and Colour. Right, the Globes, what's going on a bit here. Won Best Motion Picture Comedy and Musical, and Finney won Most Promising Newcomer, and nominations went to Richardson, Best Actor Finney, Supporting Actress Greenwood, and Supporting Actor Hugh Griffith. And finally, at the BAFTAs, it won Best British Film, Best Screenplay, Best Film from Any Source, and nominations for Finney, Griffith and Evans. So that's all the awards. I'm worn out now. So after the stark realities of Saturday night and Sunday morning, Albert Finney's career took off in 1963 when he was cast in the lead role as Tom Jones in John Osborne's adaptation of the Henry Fielding novel. Richardson delivered a wild, bawdy comedy set in England in the 18th century, and it's a real hoot. Finney in the lead role portrays a young man with an appetite for the fairer sex that leads him into a series of amorous adventures and potentially dire consequences. The film feels more like a theatrical play with its comedic script and over-the-top acting performances by a wealth of talent that show their skill in stage delivery. The film has a constant narration and moves at a quick pace as we hurtle through event after event involving Jones and the numerous women. Osborne and Richardson whip up a frenzy of entertainment that develops its own energy with cinematic gusto for the racy material, with John Addison's score including the mischief, both instrumental and melodic. We start with a bawling infant in the bed of Squire Allworthy. It greets us from the outset, and this sets the tone for the film. The perceived parents are banished from the grounds, and the Squire Allworthy decides to parent the infant as a godchild named Tom Jones. The narration throughout conjures an image of literary works, really, of some style, and usually seen as fiction, which was, of course, immortalised by one William Shakespeare, and it's through performances in small theatres and in period costumes, and this screenplay followed that view. The melodrama plays out as almost a mock depiction, similar to a silent film, like Keystone Cops, and there are many scenes without dialogue, just spinet music, which enables a comedic message to be shown to the viewer. In capturing the time with realism, we witness a morning hunt of deer with handheld camera. It's visually a spectacle, possibly from a helicopter, albeit somewhat barbaric, as the VIPs are seen gloating over the catch at the deer's carcass. The full picture of how the rich have fun. The script focuses on relationships between young Tom and an assortment of beautiful women from different social classes, but in essence the notion of sex is viewed by Tom the same with all. Conquest with gleeful passion. For the woman it could be argued the same, although we do see a modicum of recognition of so-called higher morals among the female upper classes, until one Lady Bellaston feasts her eyes on a young amorous Tom. Tom is so enrolled as the lusty young stud, quick to take advantage of every opportunity to add another notch to his ever-increasing belt. We also capture how the public view women like Molly, a big-bosom prostitute, as vermin, an attempt to stone her, necessitating a rescue from Tom. Hypocrisy reigned even then. Richardson is intent on offering an historical glimpse at issues in the 1700s. Richardson's 20th century means of characterising 18th century manners and morals. Brawling fights over females, the deer hunt as mentioned, the use of the word slut, usually uttered by the rich elite, the obsession with wealth and the accumulation of it is seen when Blifil's mother is killed in an accident, and it's feared that his father will follow shortly. And at the graveside we hear a comment from Blifil: "There's another one gone." Richardson's directing techniques. He cuts an action with a fast across the frame, or a clock hand wipe, or to stop the action at a poignant moment for a split second freeze before jumping onto the next scene. He frames a character facing an iris. He also has Finney addressing the audience in asides when Tom, suspicious of a woman innkeeper, turns to the audience and asks, "Did you see her take £50 from my pocket?" At another point, when Tom is about to embrace the half-clothed Mrs. Walters, he places his cap over the eye of the camera to deny us the embrace. With Sophie and Tom, we gather an early picture of romance in a perfect country setting, riding horses, a King Charles Spaniel in tow, and all the picturesque wonders of a warm summer day in the West Country of England. This changes when he becomes aware of Molly with child, but the plot is all about their eventual consummation as a couple for life. Before that, both Sophie and Tom break up, and there's a scene right out of Hollywood's greatest romantic moments, but all tongue-in-cheek. Tom flees the town for his own safety, Sophie flees to avoid an arranged marriage, and they both set off on the road to London. So a comment on Hugh Griffiths, the Squire Western, Sophie's father, is the epitome of a controlling father who's very two-faced about morality. His own lecherous behaviour conveniently ignored when commenting on Tom's gross antics. His acting prowess is another high point. His extravagance, snorting, cursing persona and over-the-top anger. The journey for Tom offers further scenes that are both comedic and calamitous. A duel of honour over Sophie, an injured Tom rescued by an amorous admirer, which quickens his recovery. He also rescued a waif about to be hung by the redcoat leader, and then the Mrs. Walters returns with favours, her thanks at being rescued from the noose. Witness this scene at an inn when the pair ravage on chicken parts, and we sense it's a simulation of passionate sexual athleticism, possibly oral sex. I'd also like to acknowledge the supporting roles of Joan Greenwood as the temptress Lady Bellaston, George Devine as Squire Elworthy, and her brilliant Dame Edith Evans as the sister of Squire Western. She's the epitome of righteous moral fortitude. And also, let's not forget David Warner as the insidious Blifil. And finally, the dreaded highwayman, straight out of Dick Turpin's fables. But this time it's an old destitute man. An unbelievable scene when he tries to rob Miss Weston, played by the superb Dame Edith Evans. And we witness a wonderful exchange between them that confuses the robber no ends. And then a second attempt, he tries to rob Jones, which Tom easily disarms him, and then hearing his tale believes him to be his natural father, and so takes him under his wing to London. Absolutely unbelievable. Richardson captures life in a bustling town at this time perfectly as the Camry swoons through. We see prostitutes on the street, a corpse being placed in a coffin, merchants selling all and sundry, and a cacophony of noise. It certainly is. And there's also Tom becomes acquainted with Lady Bellison, and more frolicking, all with the purpose of tracing the whereabouts of Sophie, of course. A party of rich aristocrats follows. It's a fancy dress event, and seeing Tom complete with highwayman mask, with his cheeky grin, admiring the ladies on show, an absolute thing of beauty. So to the finale as it draws closer. Tom and Sophie predictably get closer as Bellaston gets cold feet when Tom proposes marriage. Tom himself escapes the noose, a trumped up robbery charge. It's a setup, as you've guessed, and Tom's invited back into the family bosom, and the proposed union between him and Sophie is sealed, and that's about it. So, summary. Yeah, I've said a lot about this. It's such a good watch, I tell you. A light-hearted, well-acted romp set in the 18th century. Perfect in a theatre setting, but in a cinema, a little less rewarding perhaps, but enjoy it. Full marks for the cast, especially Finney, who continues to shine as one of Britain's great character actors. That's my lot. Get to watch it. It's Tom Jones.